Welcome to Relatable Wisdom, the podcast where real people share timeless ideas. I'm your host, Wisdom Okonkwo, and in every episode we dive into the philosophies, quotes, points, and life lessons that shape how we live, think, and grow. No matter where you are in life, this show is here to remind you wisdom is everywhere, and it's always relatable most of the times.
Tell us your name and
My name is Gretchen Schoser, and I am the founder of Schoser Talent and Wellness Solutions, and a podcast co-host and an advocate. I'm a little bit of everything.
yeah. Thank you for being on the podcast.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. What's your favorite quote?
My favorite quote is, "Every time we share our journey, we unlock somebody else's prison."
Every time we share, we unlock somebody says. Can you explain the quote with example?
Sure. So, like in my case, every time I share my journey from being a suicide attempt survivor and all the trials and tribulations that I went through, somebody else might be listening to that episode, and it may just save their life.
When did you come to this reality?
Well, the day after my suicide attempt on Christmas Day 2022, because I started sharing my journey with on social media to let people know what was happening with me. I'm a total extrovert and an empath, and nobody knew how depressed I was. Nobody, like not even my wife, my friends, my coworkers. And when I finally did open up, people were terrified because they had no idea how depressed I was.
What has changed since you came to the realization that every time I share my journey, someone says prison?
So, in the last 2.5 years, we have interviewed over 200 people, and every time they come on and share their stories on our podcast, it's a realization that somebody may be listening and need to hear that message. The problem that we have in today's world is, everything's on fire, and a lot of resources that were available even 2 years ago aren't available now. So people rely on podcasts and publications to, kind of help them get to that next minute, that next day, that next week. And I think it's important that we do share our stories.
Oh, okay. Every time you share your journey, someone says prison is unlocked. Sharing your story and sharing your journey is, a lot of persons will hear that and say, well, it's not really for everyone. Do you think that this quote is for everyone?
Not everybody can do it, but I will tell you that a lot of our guests that have come on, they have never spoken to a person face to face, but you put them in front of a microphone and people know that they're not going to know exactly who it is, right? Unless it's like close friends or family. A lot of times this is the first time that they've shared their story or their journey, and it's a cathartic experience for them, and it makes them, feel better, like they feel like a huge weight has gotten lifted off their shoulders. But what's even better is when we hear back from a guest saying that story actually saved my life, because now they're getting the resources that they need, or they got a new tip or a new trick on how to get to that next hour, how to get to that next day, how to get to that next week. And it's vitally important that we share our mental health stories and our journeys, because all across the world, resources are being ripped away from those that really need them. And for those of us that have already been in the trenches, we have such valuable information to share.
You mentioned that resources are being ripped away from those who need it. Like, what do you mean?
So, like here in the U.S., a lot of pages on the CDC government website have been taken down. There are, other places where policies or politics have taken resources off of websites, right? Because people aren't being validated. And so, for a typical like you or me or maybe Joe down the street, where we really needed that resource isn't available to them. But for somebody that's been in where I've been, in the depths of horrible depression, those resources can save lives. And when we are out there and we are doing podcasts and we're talking to people and we're doing lectures, we have real life, we have lived experiences, right? So people can also learn from our lived experiences. And I think that's important because maybe something I did to save my life, somebody else didn't know about. Like here in the US, like as soon as I started talking about the 988 crisis hotline, a lot of people didn't know about that, which is a shame because that lifeline saved lives every single day.
Now, earlier on when I asked you watching it, you told me that a lot of persons is sharing their story for the first time and it's cathartic for them. I just want us to step back a bit, right? You started sharing your journey after the suicide attempt in 2022. Since then, how's that changed?
Oh, 1,000-fold. Like, it was that small glimmer of hope that things were going to get better, and the call to the 988 crisis line. Since then, we launched our podcast. We're 2.5 years into that journey. I opened up my own company, and I found my hope. I found my joy, and I took all that pain and turned it into purpose.
I'm curious to know, when after the attempt, why did you decide to skate? I'm going to talk about this thing that happened. Now, a lot of people, they have those events and then they recover from it and then they move on, do something else. But now you're like, oh no, this stuff I went was really, really sad and really scary. I'm going to start making content out there so that someone else will not attempt or or go through this thing that I and what was the inspiration that led to? Now, I mean, I know you experienced trying to take, but a lot of persons experience it, but not all of them decide to say, okay, this will be my mission to to start helping other person who would want to even attempt or try that, to just help them go through with the resources and all that they need to really live another day, live another month. It just keeps.
Let's take a quick pause. If you're enjoying this conversation and want more thought-provoking ideas straight to your inbox, join the Relatable Wisdom email list. It's free, quick, and filled with bite-sized insights, inspiring quotes, and behind-the-scenes reflections from our guests. Just head to relatablewisdom.com/join. That is relatablewisdom.com/join, or tap the link in the show notes. And hey, subscribing to the podcast helps more than you think, and it's free. So if you haven't already, hit that follow button wherever you're listening. All right, let's get back to the conversation.
So for me, like I said, I'm an extrovert. I have a ton of friends, like all over the world. And I didn't think it was fair to them, just as it wasn't fair to my wife, because I couldn't open up to her, number one, because I didn't understand what was going on inside my head when everything was going on. I couldn't put a voice to it. I couldn't find my footing. And then once I had, I went to my very first therapy appointment and they gave me voice to what was going on in my head. I wanted to make sure that other people weren't suffering in silence like I was, because there was some shame associated to it. I thought I was weak because I couldn't handle it. But you have to also remember, at the time that all went down, I was 59 and a half years old. And my entire life I had been taught, we don't talk about what's going on inside our heads until it has absolutely no place to go. And that's what happened to me on Christmas Day. I didn't want anybody else to feel that way. I wanted people to recognize that life does get better, right? And that there is hope. And no matter how crappy today is, it may not be as crappy tomorrow. You just need to keep putting one foot in front of another. But for me, I've done 2.5 years of really hard therapy on myself. And some of us are able to speak up about what's going on, and some of us don't, because they're afraid, because there's still shame and stigma and people calling them weak. For me, I didn't care. I didn't care because I'd already felt all of that. And I just wanted somebody that was maybe listening to that message to feel like it's okay to open up.
Yeah.
And yeah, I've lost a ton of friends, okay, because the new me has some serious boundaries. And if you're willing to set those boundaries and walk away from the crap in your life that does you absolutely no good, I feel better. This is the best I felt in 20 years.
Oh, okay. You mentioned I just want us to go back to the quote that every time you share a story, someone's prison is locked. And you did mention that you've gotten responses and feedback from your listeners thanking you for bringing guests on the show to share their story because it helps them connect and resonate with them, and then get inspired and to take the next step and step out. What is an example of such message?
Early on, we got a message on our website that somebody had listened to one of the episodes and that they ended up calling 988, and our episode saved their life. So to me, like, our mission has always been to normalize how we talk about mental health. So our message did get out to somebody that really needed to hear it. And, it was somebody that didn't realize that 988 was available. It's available here in the US and also in Canada. So for me, that was heartfelt. And then about 6 months ago, we got an email from a listener that their daughter was really struggling, and they gave her the 988 number, and they listened to her and got her the help that she needed. So it's stories like that, and that's why that, every time we share our stories, we unlock somebody else's prison. That's why it's so important to get these stories out there and get your resources out there and any kind of tips and tricks, because people are suffering, and so many people suffer in silence.
Yeah. Has there been an instance or time or period, right, where it felt like it didn't matter whether you shared this or not, right? Now, of course, in retrospect, you look back and you're like, yeah, I'm glad I showed up. I'm glad I shared it. I'm glad I I I I just showed up. But at the very point in time, because of certain reasons, you just feel like, oh, what's the use? Why are you sharing your story? You just you get it. Sometimes you're like, oh, this stuff I'm doing is not even important at the point in time, like in the heat of the moment. But after the moment, you're like, yeah, I'm glad I showed up. I'm glad I'm doing what I'm doing. I'm glad that even if it's just one person, that it means a lot. Has there been a moment?
No, because, most of my life I've been pretty outspoken about, what I'm talking about, unless, like, when everything happened the last quarter of 2022, because I didn't understand it. But I've gotten to the point in my life now, like, I'm just going to keep sharing my story. And, like, if I lose friends, I lose friends. But, I became a mental health advocate because of my own story, my own journey. And I kind of let stuff like that roll off my back. I'm going to be 62 at the end of this month, and I'm like, I don't, if you don't like me, I'm cool with that. But I'm out there. We're just out there trying to make the world a better place.
Yeah. Oh, thank you, Gretchen, for sharing your quote with us. I know that because you shared your quotes, prison has been unlocked. Yeah.
Oh, you're welcome.
Yeah.
No, welcome.
Where can my listeners learn more about you and what you do, and then your amazing?
So if you want to learn more about the podcast, you can go out to goesoninOurheads.net. And if you want to learn more about my company, you can go out to schosersolutions.com.
Okay, yeah. Once again, thank you so much, Gretchen. It's been an absolute delight.
No worries. You have a great night. Thank you for the invite.
You've been listening to Relatable Wisdom, and I've been your host, Wisdom Okonkwo. You've been listening to the podcast where every story, quote, and insight helps you see life a little differently. If you enjoyed today's episode, follow the show on your favorite podcast app and share it with someone who loved the conversation. For more inspiring voices and timeless wisdom, visit relatablewisdom.com. Until next time, keep living, learning, and collecting wisdom that matters most to you.